The night she told me to leave, I was still paying for the walls. The ceiling fan hummed overhead, calm and indifferent, the same steady rhythm it had kept for the last 3 years. Marianne sat at the head of the dining table, the one I had paid for in monthly installments, and smiled like she was doing me a favor. "You'll need to move out, Alyssa," she said gently, folding her hands as if delivering mercy instead of eviction. "Lauren and her husband are ready to start a family. They need the space." I waited for my husband, Ethan, to speak, to defend me, to say anything. He stared at his plate and said nothing. "My name is Alyssa Carter. I am 32 years old. I married her son thinking love would be enough to build a life. I was wrong. I'm childless by choice for now, and apparently that made me disposable. I had been quietly paying $6,600 every single month for this household. Mortgage contributions, utilities, renovations, groceries, the soft beige couch Marianne loved to show off to her friends. I paid without complaint because I believed marriage meant partnership, not scorekeeping. But that night, something inside me detached cleanly. Not with tears or shouting, just a quiet, efficient click, like a switch flipping off. I nodded slowly. "I understand," I said, even managing a small smile. "I'll start looking for somewhere else." Marianne looked pleased. Ethan looked relieved. Inside, I had already begun packing my entire life out of theirs. That night, I went upstairs, folded laundry with steady hands, and listened to Ethan breathe beside me as if the world hadn't just shifted. The next morning, I made coffee, kissed him on the cheek like always, and waited until the front door closed behind him and Marianne. Then I picked up my phone. "Hi," I said calmly. "I need movers today. Full packing service. Everything." As I hung up, I looked around the house at every piece I had funded, defended, and carried on my back. This wasn't me being pushed out. This was me choosing exactly how to leave, and they had no idea what I was about to take with me. By noon, the house sounded completely different. Drawers opening, tape ripping, cardboard scraping against the hardwood floors I had paid to refinish last winter. The movers worked quickly, professionally, and quietly, the same way I had learned to survive in this house. As they wrapped furniture in blankets, my mind replayed the last 2 years like a movie I could finally see clearly. When Ethan lost his job, I didn't panic. I stepped up. I told myself, marriages bend, they don't break. I covered the mortgage for a while, then a little longer, then everything. Marianne framed it as family helping family. Her daughter Lauren would visit, sip wine on the couch I bought, and joke, "Must be nice having a rich sister-in-law who pays for everything." I always laughed along. Always. The truth was uglier. My consulting income wasn't flashy, but it was steady and substantial. Ethan's pride couldn't handle the truth, so we agreed the bills would come from our joint account, even though the transfers came from mine. Over time, I stopped being a wife and became infrastructure. Useful. Invisible. Expected. What hurt wasn't being asked to leave. It was how easily they decided I was the expendable one, like my absence would solve all their problems, like I was clutter. At 3:17 p.m., my phone buzzed. A text from Marianne. "We'll talk tonight about timelines. No need to rush." I looked at the movers carrying out the beloved beige couch and typed back one word, "Okay." She still thought this was happening on her schedule. That illusion was about to collapse. Ethan came home early. His footsteps stopped dead in the hallway when he saw the bare walls and half-empty rooms. "Alyssa, what is this?" I didn't turn around at first. "I'm moving out, today." He laughed once, sharp and disbelieving. "You're being dramatic. Mom said you had time." There it was. Mom said. Not, "We'll figure this out together," not, "Are you okay?" Just instructions passed down like family policy. I faced him then, really looked at him. No panic in his eyes, just irritation, like I had inconvenienced his routine. You didn't defend me, I said quietly. Not once. He rubbed his face. Lauren needs the space. You don't even want kids right now, So I don't qualify for a home? I asked. He didn't deny it. He followed me downstairs, watching strangers wrap our life in brown paper. When the movers lifted the dining table, his voice dropped. Wait, why are they taking that? I paused. Because I bought it, like most things here. He stared at me. What do you mean, most? I pulled out my phone, opened the banking app, and held it between us. Not angry, not shaking, just factual. His face drained of color, piece by piece, as the long list of transfers appeared. Every mortgage payment, every utility bill, every renovation. You paid for all this? I smiled faintly. You never asked. Upstairs, I heard Marianne's car pull into the driveway. For the first time in years, I didn't feel nervous. I felt ready. Marianne walked in smiling, carrying a grocery bag. The smile froze when she saw the empty living room, walls bare, echoes where her voice usually filled the space. "What's going on?" she asked, voice tightening. Ethan opened his mouth, then closed it. I stepped forward. "I'm moving out today." Her eyes narrowed. "That's unnecessary. We said you had time." "We?" I asked softly. "Funny, I don't remember agreeing to anything." She scoffed. "Don't be childish. You're upset. We'll talk after dinner." Then she saw the movers carrying out her precious couch. "Stop them," she snapped. One mover looked at me. I nodded. They kept walking. Marianne turned on me, voice sharp now. "You can't just take things that belong to this house." I pulled a neatly tabbed folder from my bag. Receipts, bank transfers, dates, every quiet payment I had made over 2 years. "They belong to me," I said calmly, "legally." Her face went pale. Ethan couldn't speak. Lauren arrived minutes later, saw the stripped rooms, and laughed nervously. "Is this a joke?" I met her eyes. "No, you're getting the house. Congratulations." She blinked. "Then why is it empty?" That was the moment it finally landed for all of them. The house wasn't being handed over, it was being stripped down to the truth. And the truth had my name written all over it. That night, I slept better than I had in years in a quiet hotel across town, not because it didn't hurt, but because the pain finally had direction. I laid out every document on the bed like a chessboard. Bank statements, contracts, transfer records, the invisible skeleton that had held their comfortable life together. By morning, my emotions had cooled into something sharper, focused, lethal. I called my accountant first, then my lawyer. Calm, professional conversations, no drama, just clarity. The numbers were staggering when spoken aloud. Over $158,000 in 2 years. Then I did what I had never done before. I stopped paying everything. Utilities, subscriptions, the shared account Ethan barely checked, the security system, the gardener, the streaming services Marianne used daily. All paused, all documented. By noon, Ethan was calling, then texting, then calling again. "We need to talk. Mom is upset. This is getting out of hand." I didn't reply. Instead, I forwarded a polite professional email to Marianne explaining that, effective immediately, I would no longer be funding household expenses for a residence I had been asked to vacate. No insults, no threats, just consequences. They thought removing me would create space. They had no idea how expensive my absence would become. By the third day, the house started unraveling. Electricity was the first to go, an unpaid balance they never knew existed because I had always handled it. Then the internet, then the auto payments on services Marianne bragged about to her friends, the security monitoring, the gardener. Ethan showed up at my hotel, looking smaller, wrinkled shirt, dark circles under his eyes. "You're humiliating us," he hissed in the lobby. "My sister is crying. Mom doesn't understand what's happening." I kept my voice low and steady. "I was told to leave. I left. You wanted space. Now you have it." He reached for my arm. I stepped back. I slid one more envelope across the table, my lawyer's letter. Itemized contributions, proof of payments, a formal request for reimbursement or asset liquidation to avoid court. His hands shook as he read it. "You planned this," he whispered. "No," I said calmly. "You forced it." As I walked away, my phone buzzed. 7 missed calls from Marianne. When I finally played the voicemail, her voice was tight and brittle. "Alyssa, this has gone far enough. You're tearing this family apart." I almost laughed. By the end of the week, the truth had completely surfaced. Lauren and her husband couldn't afford the house without my contributions. The mortgage was behind, utilities were past due, the temporary plan had collapsed under real numbers. Ethan showed up one last time, without anger, just desperation. "Mom says if you come back, we can talk about adjustments." I looked at the man I once loved, the one who had let me be erased for convenience, and felt only distance. "You already talked. You just didn't realize I was listening." Behind him, Marianne stood in the driveway, watching. She looked smaller now, no authority left in her posture. She finally understood what she had done. She hadn't removed a nuisance, she had dismantled the foundation. The final twist came quietly a week later. My lawyer called, not with drama, but quiet satisfaction. During the review of my transfers, something important surfaced. Several major renovations had been paid in my name for tax efficiency. Marianne had waved it off at the time. "Paperwork doesn't matter," she had said. It mattered legally. A significant portion of the house wasn't just funded by me, it was partially mine. When the legal notice arrived, Marianne didn't scream. She went silent. The kind of silence that comes when power finally realizes it's gone. Ethan sent one last message. "I didn't know it would end like this." I typed back, "Neither did I. You chose not to know." They eventually sold the house quietly to cover the debts. Lauren moved somewhere smaller. Marianne stopped hosting her famous dinners. The family story rewrote itself without my name in it. And me? I signed a lease on a beautiful new place, filled only with things I chose. I paid my own expenses gladly because they were truly mine. No gratitude required. No permission needed. I wasn't pushed out. I was released. And the life I built afterward didn't echo with resentment. It echoed with freedom.